I'm going to say I'm surprised that I'm not. I'm surprised at kind of how quickly it came. I'm not surprised that we're here at some point. And as I say, it's just probably a matter of several months earlier than I kind of expected. I'd been saying for probably since the end of last year, we would see 35 taken out in the first half, and then probably 40 taken out in the second half of this year. We're not at 40 yet, but we're very close. And frankly, soon or even just in the second half of this year, I will not be surprised at all. And if the momentum keeps up, I think we'll see perhaps even as high as 45 at some point this year. And I've also been saying that that sort of magic $50 level was probably going to be at some point next year. That's obviously looking farther out. It's still kind of where I'm seeing things right now. But the momentum is absolutely there. I've been somewhat surprised. The momentum has kept up, but people are starting to pay attention. Gold has been more in a bit of a consolidation phase, and silver has sort of taken the lead, taken the baton, and moved ahead. I've been saying that if you look, if it's kind of been one of these staircase patterns. If you look at how silver has behaved, it was 32. That was a ceiling for a while. The next one seemed to be 34. So once it moved above 34, that ceiling became a floor. So kind of the new step. Once we moved through 36, that became a new step. We're now at what I believe is 38 as the next staircase step. And certainly 40 is, like I say, I've been expecting 40 at some point, second half of this year. And I think that will act the same way. Trigger point, probably, because, these big round numbers do tend to have more effect. And just the way, 3,000 in gold or 3,500 in gold. And I think you're right. I agree with you. $40 will be a big trigger. Now, it may attempt 40 and then not be able to close above it. And that may be a tougher ceiling to break through for a while because it's a psychological barrier in this sort of big round number, so to speak. But I agree. Once we get through that, we'll have come from, where we were back, perhaps the early part of last year. If I remember right, we were, somewhere close to about 20 in February or so. And here we are at 38, 39. It's just incredible. It's almost a double already. So it's really quite spectacular. Yes, I think that's going to be a big deal. And technical analysis, I agree with you. I'm not an expert in it, but I do like to watch it. And what I think about technical analysis is that one of the big reasons that it is important, especially let's say for the commodities themselves, as opposed to companies or whatever, is that the commodities are heavily traded. And so even if I'm not, but if you happen to be a technical analysis skeptic, even a guy like Jim Rogers, who's a big fundamental research kind of guy and so on, he said that he pays some attention to it, and if for no other reason that he knows that there's a big chunk of the market that does pay attention to it. And it's one of these sort of self-fulfilling prophecies. If you reach these, these levels, picking up similar vibes. I mean, I'm getting emails from people who are subscribers or interested in becoming subscribers to my newsletter. And they're asking, what kinds of things do you cover? Do you think that, we're too far along? How would you allocate? Now, I'm not an investment advisor, so I can't give that kind of advice. I only tell people, kind of how I see things for myself and how I would handle things for myself. But there is absolutely a lot more interest and questions about silver itself, about allocating to the more speculative end of silver. So the developers, the explorers, even the pre-discovery explorers, and I've honestly, I have seen a group of stocks in the portfolio from January. You take a certain handful of stocks, they're up on average 60%. This is, I'm going to say, probably 8 or 9 different stocks are up on average 60%. Some of them, one in particular, one of the standouts was, and I was a little bit late on that, my fault, but I had followed this company right around the sort of 25 to 30 cent price range. I ended up recommending it around 45 or 47 cents, I believe. And it made it to $1.20, and it took about 6 weeks. It was just unreal. I've not seen anything like this for quite some time. I'm going to say the last time would have probably been in the months, sort of leading up to April of 2011, when silver went to 49 and change, and touched that or was close to touching that $50 level for the second time in history. But I think we have a very different environment now. We're now facing structural deficits in silver. and supply is nowhere near close to coming to meet any of these deficits. The only way these deficits have been met has been by drawing down on above ground inventories. Those continue to stay very low. So we have a fundamentally very strong case for early days in the silver bull market. And I mean, again, the bottom line, or let's say the takeaway from this is it's certainly not too late. It has begun to become what I feel is a little bit frothy in sort of this early part. I think, if we're honestly actually a little bit lucky, we might get a little bit of a correction or at least a consolidation for a little while. It would be very healthy. But it's still early days in my mind, absolutely. And a big chunk of all of the silver, about 20% or so, goes to solar panels alone. And I don't remember the specifics, but I've been reading some research recently that, earlier in the year had said there had been research saying, well, there's risk of recession, et cetera. With all this sort of tariff deal going on, there's a risk that we're going to see solar panel continue to, or we're going to see solar production sort of level off or slow down. There's a little bit of an effect of thrifting, meaning looking for ways to use less silver for solar panels. But we haven't seen that happen at all. In fact, there have been record numbers of solar installations. China is a really big one, not only for production but for installation of solar panels. For different reasons, I think that there's been government incentives to roll out solar installations in China, and they've been installing record amounts of solar. So the demand for silver to produce these panels continues to grow. And so I think that some of the forecasts where we saw the Silver Institute, for example, I'm trying to look at these numbers actually right now. They said that they expected to see industrial actually drop slightly, like 0.5% from 2024 through 2025. And I think that that's going to probably end up being wrong. I think we're going to see that actually grow a little bit. And they said that they expected coin and bar demand to go up by about 7% in 2025 over 2024. I think that'll be taken out to a much, much higher level. And they also said that they expected inflows into silver ETFs to actually be up by about 14%. So far, they've been, I don't know about percentage-wise, they've been right on that call. But I was saying to you earlier that there have been some numbers just recently that showed the inflows of silver into ETFs since the beginning of June. So from early June to July 4th was 990 tons. Half of the inflows had happened in a matter of about 3 weeks. So, people are really starting to pay attention to silver. It's not just the industrial demand. It really is starting to flow into buying silver, physical silver, or at least the ETFs as a proxy to physical silver. And so, these ETFs, especially the better ones, they have no choice. They have to go out and find the silver to match the buying of the outstanding shares that they have to issue for the ETF. So that shunts demand into new physical silver, and I think a lot of that's coming from the above ground inventories. As I say, there just is no new supply to meet the shortfalls. Said that there was going to be a market shortfall of about 150 million ounces this year. 117 million ounces this year, and that in 2024 it was 148 million ounces. I think that's going to end up being wrong as well. I think that there's going to be a bigger shortfall than they forecasted. And it'll probably be at least close to last year's of about 150 million ounces if it doesn't surpass it anyways. So it's just a very, very robust market. Doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. And, people should have exposure to it. You don't have to have exposure and it being sort of on the higher risk end of the spectrum. I give a couple of examples in my book, The Great Silver Bull, of you had two of the biggest market cap silver companies. So that being Pan American Silver and silver and what's Wheaton Precious Metals today. It used to be Silver Wheaton. So that's a royalty company, huge market caps at tens of billions and so on. And these companies, at one point or other in sort of the first half of the secular bull between 2001 and 2011, on different time frames, were both up something like 16 or 17 times. One of them was up that rate, and I think it was a space of about 2 years. The other one took about 5 years. That's incredible returns for some of the largest market caps market cap silver companies, public companies in this space. So that just shows you don't have to take sort of these outsized risks. But even the small guys have really been paying off lately. So, spreading it across that is not a bad idea either. You just have to know, what you're comfortable with. New Samsung battery. I have not seen any specifics. I'm sure it's not by accident that we don't know yet how much silver that battery takes. And of course, that battery needs to roll out. It's expected it's going to roll out, and because it won't be, a cheaper technology, it'll end up in that sort of higher end vehicles to begin with. And then we need to get some economies of scale before that takes on more importance. Frankly, I think that those are the two big ones. I haven't seen anything new. There are always new patents for silver. There are all sorts of medical applications. There are all sorts of technological applications. I've heard things about how, for these computer chips, especially with AI and the demand from some of the big producers of these chips, there's a silver component to that as well. I'm not sure that that's sort of fully being grasped yet or fully priced in yet. You also have, the risks. I have not seen anything of significant concern yet, but there's talk about how copper may be used to replace silver in solar panels. What I've seen is it's nowhere nearly as efficient. The technology has yet to have been sort of proven and rolled out, that it doesn't have the same lifespan as the silver solar panels. So I'm not sure that that's really that much of a risk either. I think it's going to be more, frankly, from what I see now, anything can happen at any time, of course, in terms of, sort of new technological developments, but the demand for more electricity, and that coming from just sort of population growth and increasing standards of living, the demand for electricity for AI and for data centers is just exponential. And frankly, I think a lot of that, in fact, I had seen some stats where, you had sort of the bigger tech players, companies like Apple and Microsoft, Facebook, all these guys were initially turning to uranium, or I should say nuclear, because it's sort of the ultimate baseload power. It's reliable, it's clean, it's cheap, it's all that stuff. But that takes a while to permit. There's only so much unused capacity that you can tap into. It takes a lot of upfront capital to get involved, even if you're sort of reviving, dormant facilities. After that, you're going to fall to some other technology. And the data I had seen was that by far the next strongest one was actually going to be, and more widespread, was going to be solar. One, because relatively cheap. Two, quick to permit, quick to build. And what's helping solar? In fact, so some of the detractors for that were, it's not baseload, so not quite as reliable, sort of on a steadiness basis like nuclear. But we have this whole sort of battery side of solar. In other words, so you can capture the energy during the day from solar, you can store it, and then you can draw down from batteries at night. And that apparently is what's becoming a game changer for solar, and allowing solar to take on that much more importance in the power supply area. So, I mean, I just think solar just has that much farther to go. The battery side of it's going to be a big deal. And let's stay open, keep an open mind in terms of new applications for silver that can shock us. It's really a bit of a wonder metal.